their struggles, have somebody try to explain things to me in a different perspective to just help me figure out how to, try to make this work. The more I sat with the therapist and started understanding codependency, that's something that was new to me. I never understood what codependency meant and really how we had such a codependent relationship, and trying to even separate or break free from that. I think that's something that a lot of people struggle with, because if you've never really heard that term before, you don't realize until you sit and start breaking that down, like, oh my gosh, I can be codependent on my parents. I can be codependent on my friend or my children at times. And so what do you think is something people can do if they recognize they're in like a codependent situation? What can they do to try to break free from that?
I think that if you are recognizing that you're in a codependent relationship, you have to really recognize that you are being codependent. Because it's one thing to know that you are codependent, and it's another thing for someone else to tell you that you're codependent. So if you don't agree with, accept, and you aren't aware that you're codependent, then it will be an issue. And if I may, codependency is a dysfunctional relationship dynamic where one person assumes the role of the giver, sacrificing their own needs and well-being for the sake of the other person. And some signs that you are codependent, here are some codependency traits, are low self-esteem, trouble identifying your own emotions, trouble making decisions, desire to care for others, not to be misconstrued with people pleasing, a desire to feel important to someone, and an excessive sense of responsibility for the way that other people act, or you're needing to come to the rescue for other people in that relationship. So some things that you can do to sort of overcome codependency or being codependent: one, acknowledge the issue. Two, challenge those negative thoughts and shift your perspective from needing to save this person or be responsible for their actions and behaviors. Step back from taking things personally. This is one that I cannot stress enough. Communicate clearly and set healthy boundaries. One, you need to learn how to set those boundaries as well. Invest time in yourself, in yourself, in yourself. I had to say that 3 times. Invest in time in yourself. So often individuals in codependent relationships will have so many things on their plate that they are doing, but they forget to put themselves on that plate as well. So spend time learning yourself. Spend time reuniting with yourself and understanding what it is that you like, what it is that you enjoy, what it is that makes your heart smile. Because when we start getting in these relationships, the people we're in relationship in becomes priority. If we have children, that becomes a priority. If we're working, work becomes a priority as well. And before you know it, you will recognize, like, dang, I don't do anything for myself. And then you'll start to be hard on yourself, like, dang, I just let myself go, or I don't have this, or I don't have that. And then you become resentful. So
Oh, I was just about to
spend
say the
time.
resentment you'll start to carry. Yeah, you sure will.
Man, so resentful. But and I will also say, give yourself some grace and compassion. Practice that. You are someone who is just acknowledged, and you accept that you are in a codependent relationship. You might have to spend some time processing that and extend grace, because while you may want to not be in a codependent relationship anymore and kind of like, I say Amazon Prime that thing, like, 2 days, I want to be not be a codependent person anymore. Um, you have to realize that it's gonna take some work, and you might find yourself falling back into those behaviors that lend itself to being in a codependent relationship. So
That's insightful. I appreciate that for sure. I say I'm still kind of going through, like, it's like I don't have him, so I'm not codependent on that situation anymore. But I find myself at times codependent on my parents. And so when I moved out, me and my kids moved in with my mom and my dad. So we currently live home with my parents. And that's been kind of it's a blessing, but sometimes I feel like a curse because it's like they want to, kind of instill their views, their ideas, just how they function and their systems on us when we were used to doing things so very different. But also, I'm finding myself like almost relying on them a little bit more than I want to, just because it's like I went so long not having the support, not having a helping hand, and having someone to kind of piggyback off. Like when I'm having my days and I'm just down, I can't do it. I know they can pick up the slack for me, but just trying not to become too reliant on that. So I've been in this process of like saving money and trying to work on buying my house in the early part of next year, hopefully. But I think that's something, like I said, I wish these were things like we understood or learned when we were younger. You said you have two kids, teenage, 15, right?
Yep.
This is something that I have been talking to with one of my co-hosts on the show. Is when we're growing up, there's so many things I feel like our parents don't really teach us. They don't really teach us the concept or idea of like self-love. We don't really understand how to love ourselves properly. Because I think as we kind of go into like our college years, our early adult years, we are like looking for people to validate us. Sometimes a man, a woman, or, a circle of friends. And that's something that while I'm sitting here with my 13-year-old daughter, I'm working so hard to try to teach her, girl, you have to love you. You cannot be waiting for little boys at school to tell you this or your friends to hype you up and tell you this. Is that something that you think that as parents, we need to do a better job teaching our kids at earlier ages?
So I'm gonna stay with grace. Generations, our parents and their parents, I have some grace and understanding for them. When
Okay.
you think about, I'm a Black woman, so my ancestors were fearful. Fear was instilled in them, and so we're not really too far removed, if removed at all. We have been in a space where we have not been taught, or we don't know that we should love ourselves. I mean,
Mm,
years of being told you're not enough, we don't like you, you're deplorable, you're not even a human. So
mhm.
they didn't have the tools to know how to love themselves, and so they couldn't teach us what they didn't know, right?
That
I
makes
think
sense.
as
Yeah.
millennials, we have started the charge or the movement to talk about mental health more, to uh, embrace vulnerability and express how we feel. And to answer your question, yes, I think that we should be talking about it earlier than the teenage years, and not just telling them what they need to do, but actually modeling the behavior of what it looks like. So your daughter needs to
Yeah.
see you loving yourself, and she's like, oh, so I know what that means. Like,
Okay.
maybe my mom didn't tell me, but she showed me what it looked like to love herself. She said it out loud that she loved herself. She does. Let her see you doing affirmations if you do them.
Okay.
Let her see you being mindful. Talk about those things. Post up, the language of self-love and affirming and positivity and purpose around them. So something that I do all the time with my children is we have conversations. I have a boy and a girl. They're both dating, which is something, dating when I was 15. Oh, what? Yeah,
I know, right?
we have these conversations where they get to express whatever it is they want to express. I don't say anything. I listen in
Okay.
that moment. Now, I do get a chance to process everything they told me, and maybe a day or two later, then I will respond. But in that moment, I need them to know that I am going to be a safe space, and my husband as well. We do it as a family.
Okay.
Sometimes that we are a safe space for you, because what we don't want is them to go out looking, being in college, and they're looking for validation.
Right.
Do we all look for external validation? Yeah, we do. But
Yeah.
it doesn't need to be the driving force and be in the driver's seat of everything that they do, external validation. I want my children when they go out and go off to college, I want them to know that we've shown them what it means to love themselves. We've shown them what it means to regulate their emotions. They have the language to express how they feel, and they're gonna go through some shit. They're gonna go through some things, and I understand that. I will be there to support them, but I will always model that behavior and create that safe space, something that I personally didn't have when I was growing up. I didn't have the safe space. So I look for it in other places.
That's awesome. I
And not
appreciate you sharing
necessarily
that.
there and not necessarily in therapy.
Right. I do understand. And I think that's something that we need to be a little bit more mindful of too as parents. Like it's like you do as you're told, and but we're not even modeling those behaviors. So even right now, I'm wondering if you're going through these challenges with your kids and the devices, the addiction to the devices or the social media. And I actually just attended a workshop at a local church about a week ago, and it was about I think the group was like protect your eyes, like PYE. And so they have a page and things on Instagram, and they provide all these resources for how to monitor your kids' phones, and I mean even equipment that you can buy in your house, like Wi-Fi routers that can allow you to shut devices down and turn this off and look at how much activity time they're spending in individual apps and all this stuff. It's kind of scary to see where they are with just the technology to where we are when we grew up with it. Like we were kind of just the generation just being introduced to like the cell phones and all the texting, and the social media started when we were probably in college age. And it's devastating to me just trying to break some of those habits. So even right now, my daughter's upstairs on punishment for the next week with no devices because it's like she can't function without them. And she made a real bad move this weekend. And I'm like, you know what? Now we've got to start taking some really drastic measures. As a parent, what do you think we can do to help them with some of these issues? Help them to understand like social media is not real life. Help them to understand that there's more outside these devices. Like they're losing their ability to communicate with people. I mean, these kids can't make eye contact. I'm concerned half of them are going to be hunchback because they're walking around like this on devices all day, every day. But I'm always curious to know just other parents who are going through some of these same struggles. What kind of things are you doing in your home? What do you do with your teenage kids and these devices?
One of the things that we started early, my husband and I, is we're iPhone users over here, Team iPhone.
Me
And
too, girl.
so we had like screen time
Okay.
on their phones. We monitor, how their usage and things like that. Listen, this must be a theme right now because my daughter, her phone actually broke, but I'm not buying another phone until we pay this one off, which will
Right.
be this month. So I'm like, sis, you might be out of phone for a little bit.
Just a little.
And it's the addiction is so real. Listen, she told me, she said, I feel like I've gotten my phone taken and I didn't even do anything. So when they are, in trouble with grades or things like that, their behavior is poor, we
Yeah.
take those devices.
Okay.
And the fact that she equated her phone being broke to it being as if she was on punishment, I was like, girl, the addiction is real. Do you see it, honey? Do you
It,
see it?
it is.
So
Mm,
when they turned 14, we took the screen time off, and they don't need to ask us to download apps or anything like that. But you better believe we're doing phone checks. We
okay.
do phone checks, and we got passwords to these phones, only
Okay.
because it is our responsibility to make sure that they are doing okay and checking
Yeah.
up on them. Having those conversations for sure, continuing to have those conversations, knowing what apps they're on. Are they going to get sneaky and try to hide certain things? Yes. But the ones that we see that they have high usage on, oh, I'm
Mhm.
checking them. I'm
Okay.
checking them. Okay.
Do you allow them to like utilize social media or have accounts like Instagram, TikTok, and stuff?
Yeah,
Okay.
they've had them for a while. That was one of the things when we had like the parameters on the phone,
Mhm.
and we'll go back to it if we need to. But
Okay.
they were only allotted a certain amount of time on each app, and that took
Okay.
some. I had to go through and say, okay, you got this much time on this day, this much time on these days, and once you use up your time, that's it.
It's a lot.
And so that was something that we did. One of
Okay.
the things, because of this addiction, we have to model certain behavior, right? Like, I'm on my phone. I use it for my business all the time. My husband is always on his phone,
Mhm.
and they see us doing this. So I've told everybody, and they might be upset with me about this, but I told them when we are eating, there will be no devices
I know
at
that's
all.
right. Mhm.
If something, I mean, practicing some mindful eating. Now,
Okay.
if you guys feel like, you can't do it, there will be a mandatory 3-hour mindful day every day. So
Mm.
you will not have your device for 3 hours. I will
Wow.
change the Wi-Fi password. Don't play with me.
Mm. I know that's right. That's good. See, that's something my mother is really big on too. She's like, listen, dinner time, everything's off. And so, sometimes she's like, oh my God, I'm in the middle of Roblox. Who cares? Turn it off.
You better
Let's eat
tell
and let's
Ro and Block to go sit down somewhere.
it's so discouraging, and it's actually really scary to see how, even like when I took my daughter's phone, she's like stomping up the stairs and she's got this attitude. It's like this rage is unleashed. I'm like, it's just not that serious. But then I realized that she's like, you're on your phone all the time. And I just kind of had to stop, like, dang, she's right. You know what I mean? So again, it kind of goes back to we're not even always modeling these behaviors we have, like in these expectations we have of the kids. We half the time can't do it ourselves. And so like as a content creator and running your businesses, all my work emails and stuff are transferred to my phone and the Teams app. And so it's like, oh man, this is really hard. So even trying to show them, like, I can put my phone down, I can listen, I can be here, I can be a little bit more present. It's just such a challenge. It's like, oh my gosh. Like I said, I wish I understood early how much work went into this full-time job of parenting, because it's just overwhelming. And especially the older they get and the more they're exposed to. And, even in the workshop that I attended, they're talking about, the kids and how they're exposed to all this pornography and all of these inappropriate apps. And even on the YouTube, like my son is 8, and he's got access to YouTube. He always bypasses the YouTube Kids app for his account, and he wants to go into the regular YouTube where he's exposed to it all. And there was a video I walked in on him. It was like a cartoon, and it's like two people laying up in the bed, and then the woman I guess the wife walks in, and it's like, why are they showing these kind of cartoons with adults cheating and in all these situations? And it's so scary. I feel like I'm a ball of anxiety and trying to, balance out here each day. I can't have eyes on them all day, every day, but they will find ways to get over this and get past this and get past limits, or they guess the passcode. So now they can just disable it themselves and add more hours. It's like, oh my God.
My daughter did that one time because she knew my husband's code. I allowed him to make it.
Uh-huh.
And when I found out one day, because I was getting ready to like airdrop something, and lo and behold, her device popped up. I said, it's 10 o'clock at night. Why are you on your phone? And how did this happen? Like, what's going on? Now I'm already knowing she done guessed the code.
Right.
But she's like, well, I don't know. Child, she was on punishment for a month with no device. Baby. We ain't had no problem since. We changed the passcode, but
That
she
literally
still
happened
having
to me
problems.
today. So my daughter, I took the Apple Watch, I took the iPad, I took the iPhone, I took I took the iMac out of her room. And so I'm working on something and uploaded some things to Instagram, and I go to airdrop it from my MacBook to my phone, and I'm like, Deanna's MacBook, she had this MacBook, she hasn't touched it in over a year. So I'm like, let me go upstairs. And I go upstairs, and I got her door locked. So I use a little key real quiet, go in. And she's hiding in her closet with her old MacBook. And I'm like,
That's what we
these
doing.
people are so sneaky. Oh, I said, now we adding on 3. Now you on punishment through next Wednesday. We're going to add on 3 more days because y'all be testing my patience and really pushing my buttons. We're at those wonderful teenage years where, they're starting going through puberty and all this stuff and just really feeling themselves. And honey, it is taking everything in me not to become an alcoholic. Okay. I'm trying real hard not to go that route.
One of the other things too, don't do it. Don't become an alcoholic. It's
No, I
okay. It's
can't.
okay. But one of the other things too is I started doing behavior contracts with our children at one point. And
Okay.
because I need you to buy in, I need you to have some input on your punishments. And oftentimes they are harder on themselves than we will be because we got a little soft spot for them.
Yeah.
But listen,
Tell me what that looks like. You said you behavioral.
so with the behavioral contracts, we ask them like, so you acknowledge and you know that you did wrong, right? So what do you think that we should do? What should your punishment be? I sometimes I give them like three options and
Okay.
they'll pick, you know, it depends. Like one time when my son got in trouble, I told him you can get your hair cut because he didn't want to get his hair cut. You can get a whooping or you can get your phone taken. Let me
Uh-huh.
tell you, this boy chose a whooping. So I
He wasn't losing
so
that phone, baby.
so listen, but here's the thing. I asked him what he thought. I didn't say
Uh-huh.
I was gonna agree with it, just like he
Okay.
didn't agree with instructions that I gave him. So I
Right.
said, "Oh, that's interesting. You're gonna
Oh,
get the other two. I just wanted to know what you thought about that."
that is
Ooh, was he hot?
so
Was
funny.
he hot?
Oh my
But
God.
yeah, and then I have them write down what they did, how they feel about it, any other words that they may have, and what they're going to do to make sure that this behavior does not happen again. And then I
Right.
make them sign it. Now my kids, about the only cursive they know is their name. Thank goodness.
Okay. At least they
But
got
that's
that girl.
it.
Some don't.
That's it. And I was just like, man, this cursive thing, just to go on to that for just a second. I write in cursive and I write, you know, important things in cursive, letters to the kids. I was
Okay.
like, I need to stop writing these letters in cursive because I realized that after, you know, these generations, they're not even going to be able to read it.
I know.
So
That's
I
so
started
scary.
like writing letters in print. Like I have this book of like important documents and everything. I started writing them in print. And it is
Mm,
so horrible that they
it
will not
is.
be able to read cursive here soon.
I agree. I had my daughter enrolled for 1 week in this private school this summer. I had to take her out, girl, because I'm convinced they were a religious cult. Okay. But I was like, before she started, honey, that's for another day. But before she started, they were like, you need to go online and print out those cursive worksheets so she can start understanding the letters and learning how to at least do her name. I was like, you know what? This is so important. Like, I can't believe they've taken this out of so many of the schools. I have a graphic design background. So even as I'm designing things, I said, these kids they can't even understand certain fonts because they're scripted. It's sad that they're putting the pressure on us as parents to have to teach them a signature. I feel like I was listening to something like this summer about a new athlete who was being signed to a team, and he was like, what am I supposed to sign? Like, what do I put here? Because he did not know how to sign his actual name on the contracts. And I'm thinking, this is embarrassing. So even for like, I've been working really hard with my daughter, so she's approaching high school. But like, you have to understand, first of all, I want you to be able to read these things. If you're seeing a sign or seeing some script on a billboard or something, like, you want to be able to understand what you're reading. But then you also want to at least have the basics of knowing how to write your name. So good for you for actually taking the time and making sure they at least know how to do that. What, girl, I can go on for days about the education system and how I
Mhm.
say, I was just teaching my daughter about the school to prison pipeline. This is
Yep.
a real problem. And
Yep.
if you don't have basic life skills, understanding, just reading comprehension, writing, math, I'm talking basic math skills. It's just awful. And so I'm finding myself in the evenings after they do homework, usually, or after they do dinner, we make them sit and do homework for at least an hour. You would think I was pulling teeth every night. These kids, they kick, scream, cry. They don't want to sit down. They don't want to read. If it doesn't require doing something like the interactive systems on the iPad or the computers, they're just tapped out. But I think
Mhm.
as parents, we have to really get back to that. We have to really get back to sitting down with these kids, making them pick up actual books, not ebooks and epic books and all those sites. We've got to,
Mhm.
like, I started making my daughter look up words in a dictionary. I pulled out my Microsoft dictionary from college. I would give her a dozen words, find them. The first time took her almost 2 hours. And I'm trying to explain to him, start with the first three letters. And I'm like, oh my God, these are basic life skills that these kids, these schools aren't teaching these kids anything. And unless you're fortunate enough to be able to pay for private schools where they'll have a better education, our kids in this public school systems, oh my God, they're doing such a disservice to them. It's
And they're teaching
devastating.
them, yeah, they're teaching them like digital age stuff, even with signatures. Now, when you digitally sign something, you don't have to know how to write in cursive. You can type it in and they'll, italicize it or change the font to make it look like it's handwritten. And they
Exactly.
accept those things. They are learning for the digital age and not learning like things for us that we deem are basic, like life skills. Like I don't know, I don't know if this generation would, if our kids would make it on the Survivor. Like, do you
I don't
know you can make fire doing these things? I know
I
my
mean,
daughter would be popped. She'd be done.
well, my kids, it's a wrap. Just, aside from learning the skill of writing in cursive, what do you think are some other valuable like life skills that we should be trying to teach our kids just so that, they stand a chance out here?
Um, some life skills to teach the kids. I think that the kids need to know how to advocate for themselves, for one, how to
Mhm.
identify like the disrespect and not let anybody just tell them anything. They also need to learn how to research things for themselves. They
Mhm.
definitely need to stay in the books and stay
Yeah.
reading, because
Mhm.
one of the age old sayings is, if you want to keep something from black people, put it in a book. But they
Yep.
need to be able to read and decipher between what's real, what's fake, and just not allowing people to tell them what to do. Right
Mm.
now, there
Right.
are, there's some authority that you have to abide by, and but don't just let anybody tell you anything. And I think that's one of the reasons why we keep our lines of communication open with our children, because if we don't and have some openness to tell them about things that teenagers are going to do, and be open to keeping our ear to the streets on what they're doing,
Yeah.
then they're going to be out here talking to their friends, and it's the blind leading the blind and
Mm.
nobody really knows. Reading is one of them. Being able to stand on their own, researching if something doesn't sound right, and welcoming in that self-love, teaching them about mental health, teaching them about resiliency, and bouncing back. I think those are all things that are going to be important for them to know, because what was life skills for us, unfortunately, aren't life skills for them. So we got to meet them where they are, but also instill some of those lessons that we've now are learning, and we now understand. Well, I'll say we now understand, because we didn't understand our parents back then. Like, what? It didn't make
Right.
sense until now you have children of your own. Now
Right.
you've been through some things, and now you like, oh, that's what they meant. Okay.
I get
Okay.
it. Yep. Absolutely. So I think I heard in when I was listening to your podcast, you help people with anxiety.
Yeah. So the episodes that you were listening to were from an iteration of that podcast where I was speaking directly to entrepreneurs. But it
Oh, okay.
applies. It still applies now to with the refocus. But yes, my specialty in the therapeutic capacity is I'm an anxiety therapist.
Okay.
I work with women on women's issues, relationships. I do a little
Mhm.
relationship work too. Um, but self-esteem, confidence, mindset, those are all things that I work with. But yes, I love the anxious folks. I love the
See,
anxious folks.
I see we've got a lot of them. And I say right now, especially with the political climate, what would be some effective tips I think that you can give us for people who are struggling with like high levels of anxiety?
um I would say paying attention to your body, doing body scans. One of the things that you can do as an individual that has high levels of anxiety is pay attention to how your body feels. Do a body scan. How does your body feel in certain areas of I would also say being mindful. We
Okay.
are in a world and in a society where we're always on go, 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 go. What's next? What's next? So being mindful. So taking a moment, like when you're eating, taking a moment to actually eat and focus on the food,
Yeah.
chewing it, swallowing it. What does it feel like in your hands, looking at it? Because I don't know how many times, just myself included, that I have said it was lunchtime. I come up here and I'm still on my computer working, working, working. And before you know it, I didn't even realize that I've eaten my food. Like, did I chew or did I just inhale this and swallow it?
I had a moment like
Like,
that
what?
last night. Right.
Yeah, what happened? So I think that is something that we can work through as well. Another, you can implement grounding techniques like going outside and putting your feet in some grass. Going outside and just getting some sun is
Yeah.
another thing.
Yeah.
But one technique I always work with clients with is the 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 grounding technique. And what
Okay.
that is it takes you through all of the senses in your body. It's a mindfulness exercise that can help you feel more calm and present when you're feeling anxious and overwhelmed. So
Okay.
it is say out loud 5 things you see. So identify 5 things you see, identify 4 things you can touch, say them out loud, identify 3 things you hear, say them out loud, identify 2 things you can smell, say it out loud, and identify 1 thing you can taste and say
Mm,
that out loud. That
okay.
will help ground you, and it, but it's a mindfulness exercise that helps calm you.
I like
And
that.
when you're feeling anxious, and not even when you're feeling anxious, but all the time, one thing we always have with us is our breath. So if you
Mhm.
need to breathe, inhale for 4 seconds, hold it for 4, and exhale for 4. You will
Mm,
always have your breath with you. So do that, incorporate that daily.
I love that. See, these are some awesome tips. Look, I'm so glad we've got this recorded, so I'll be able to go back and reference a lot of this stuff. But this was awesome. This was a really, really great conversation, and I'm very, very happy that I was able to get you on here. This was like a paid therapy session, so thank you.
Well, it's
I'm sure
unpaid.
some of
You didn't. It's unpaid. No, but
unpaid,
I
but it feels
give
like it was paid.
I I give it freely. But no, and another thing that you can do if you are experiencing anxiety and it's uncontrollable, you definitely can seek out the support of someone who is a professional in that way.
Very
It doesn't always have to be a therapist. Therapists are trained to do that. You can
true.
also work with coaches who are going to give you specific step by step tools to help you overcome and reduce that anxiety as well. I've found though, individuals with anxiety, you need to get to the root of what's causing that anxiety, and that's where the therapist comes in with the expertise and knowledge and the tools to help you get to the core of the anxiety as well.
Oh yeah, I love that. This is fantastic. See, you gave me a little bit more, just a nice little boost, just a little bit more encouragement, some more tips I can take and try to utilize with these kids, and some more life skills I can try to practice. And mindfulness is something I feel like we hit on several times. So that's something I feel like, you kind of lose sight of that, how effective being mindful of your situations, how you're feeling, how you're responding to things. And so I am super grateful for that. I do have a signature question I usually ask to
Oh,
my guest on the show. And while it's a bit off topic, I think sometimes it's just a bit entertaining because we are the Hoe-Busters podcast. I like to get some fun stories, from your past, I'm sure, of a time you had to be a hoe-buster.
now, tell me what a whole buster is.
Somebody busting somebody being a hoe.
Oh, okay. Yeah, okay, now I understand. I just wanted to make sure. Let me see, catching somebody business. So I was in a 14-year relationship, and with him, I'm trying to think of one of the many times I caught his ass being a hoe. So here's one. So, because I didn't, after that, I went through some relationships, but we weren't really to. Oh, no. I will not talk about that one. So, one of the situationships that was so short lived that it really don't count, but I just thought about it. So, I was
Right.
dating this guy when I was living in Vegas, and I don't even know if we would call it dating, but
Right.
he hit a lick because I was up then. I'm talking about I was up. I was doing me. I was doing very well for myself.
Mhm.
And so we started talking. This is after I had gotten out of like a relationship with someone who wasn't showing me much attention. And so he started showing me attention and everything.
Mhm.
So we were together, posting pictures on Facebook, everything, girl. We was posting pictures on Facebook, child.
That sounds
But
serious.
so one day I get a message from somebody. And back then I was checking, like I was frequently checking. I was really addicted to Facebook back then, I'll say that. And so I get this message saying that you need to be careful of this person. And I'm like, well, who is you? And she
Right.
was like, well, I'm this person's sister, blah, 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 blah. And I was like, oh, okay, well, show me some proof, because if I'm about to blow up the spot,
Yeah.
then I need some proof. She
Okay.
sent me like messages about the person that I was in the situation with that was texting his ex-wife. So she was the sister. I'm not even going to say ex-wife. She was the sister of his wife. So he was still married. I didn't know he was married.
Mm.
I knew he had kids with this person, but I didn't know he was married. They were still married. He was texting the sister, trying to get back with the his wife
Mhm.
while we were together. So I was like, oh, okay. Oh, this the type of time we on. So then, so I was just like, I had got him a phone line on my account. So I
No.
started looking at I look at phone records. I said, he talk now the kids was young and
Okay.
they had the attention span. Their attention span was this short. So I would see that he was on the phone with her for extensive amounts of time. Like, what is y'all talking about? These kids, some
Right.
of these kids can't even talk. So what you not talk to these kids that long.
Right.
Then as I'm looking on here, I find out, listen, when I started, my spidey sense went off. I
Mhm.
started getting into my investigative bag. I wanted to be an FBI agent a long time ago. So
Okay.
I get into my investigative bag. I'm on the internet doing reverse lookup and
Yep.
searching who number this belongs to. And child,
Yep.
he was out there talking to all type of folks. He and I had got into it because he asked me to do something and I was like, no. So he had an attitude. So he started rolling his eyes. I said, you rolling your ass because of this? So then I just let it out. I done printed out phone records. I done highlighted them. I got the pages and I'm licking my finger and I'm turning it to the next page and everything. So you don't know
It's
this
always
person? You don't
respectful.
know her?
I know
It's interesting. I know her because I talked to her. Needless to say, I said I am putting too much energy into this and I do not want my frequency or my vibration to be lowered. So you've got to get on up out of here. And he was like,
absolutely.
well, I need about, when you want me out. I said, how much time you need? He was like, well, I was thinking about 6 months. I said, you got to the end of the week.
I know that's right. 6 months, girl.
You got to the end of the week, sir.
It's the
And I
audacity
said,
for me. Okay.
and I changed the Wi-Fi password. So listen, I cut him off that phone. I changed the Wi-Fi password. You better go call your wife and tell her to make sure you get back to where you need to get to.
Oh my goodness. It's amazing we all got a story. So what was your biggest takeaway from that situation? What did you learn from that?
These say no.
Right.
So, but my biggest takeaway that I learned from that is that to trust myself, because there were moments where I'm like, this just don't sound right.
Yeah.
This don't seem right. And don't be so desperate and thirsty. I'm married now, and I pray that I never have to get back into them dating streets.
Right.
But even with my husband, I don't play no games with his ass either. But
I love it. Oh
so,
my God.
but
This
I
is
just trust myself, and I realize that if I'm feeling uneasy about something, it's probably something to it. But I also learn how to communicate and not just overlook those things. Say what
okay.
I feel, speak what I'm feeling, and if I gotta go toe to toe to try to make sure you ain't doing something, then you're not the right person for me. So we're gonna go our separate ways, even if that means that we have to get a divorce. But I don't see that happening.
No, that's good. And you're in a good space and you got the experience now. You know how to communicate, set boundaries, and all that good stuff. And like I said, what I find after people come out of so many of those situations is you have better judgment, and better discernment. So you know how to pick them better too. So y'all gonna be good because you definitely don't want to be in these streets, honey. You do not. Although
You know,
it's only been
I heard it's some type of special in that dating pool, no matter where you at. So I'm good. I'm straight. I don't want no parts of it. I'ma just be a dog lady and love on these plants if I ever have to get back into the streets. Cause
listen.
uh-uh.
See, it's so new for me. It's been 1 year. And the dating experiences, I say for me, I don't know if my experience has been typical. I've actually met some really great men, but they are ready to get married immediately. And I'm like, no, I am
Oh,
taking my time. I'm relaxing. I am
yeah.
finding, and I'm trying to figure out what I like, what and who I like, what I want to deal with, what I don't. So I've been having actually a lot of fun. So it's definitely a scary experience, kind of when you're dealing with this person, and then you find out who they really are. You gotta because my detached game is amazing. Okay, sometimes people ain't making it 24 hours with me, and it's gone. It's
Give them
but
hell,
I'm
sis,
actually
and
having
go
a
play with them.
fantastic.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. Learn how to move on. Do not be afraid. If it's not working out, don't drag it out. Don't be
No, oh God,
afraid
no,
to just like what?
honey.
Uh-uh.
This is what I
Nope.
tell people. After wasting 19 years, you better come correct the 19 minutes or it's going to be a wrap
Yeah.
because I just don't have the time to waste anymore. And I think people, when your eyes are open, going into situations and just kind of watching people, how they move, how they function, just what they come from, you'll quickly be able to say, no, this is not for me. And I'm just not somebody to waste my time anymore or anyone else's. So
Yeah.
that's been the beauty of it for me, just being able to kind of really set firm boundaries now when I couldn't do it before and be able to communicate or ask questions. I would be scared to ask things in the past. Like, I don't want to ask about
Mm-hmm.
that. I don't want to offend him. He's going to get upset. I don't care. You can yell, cuss, fuss, and it's going to make it easier for me to cut your ass off and move the hell on.
Yeah. It sounds like them guys not don't have no time to waste either. They say they want to make you their wife. They say,
Honey, I had a man like, what is your ring size? I'm like, we've been talking for 2 weeks. You need to relax, okay?
Right.
Some of the stories have been hilarious. My girlfriend's like, you gotta start putting these dating stories out. I probably do. Some of them probably will go viral. They are hilarious, okay?
Yeah.
I think I
Uh-oh.
will. See, it's like
Uh-oh. Dating segments on the Hoe-Buster podcast.
I know, right? Because trust me, I have been on a lot of dates, and it's been hilarious. Like I said, I don't think my dating experience is typical. Coming from what I came from and some of my girlfriends, and as they're out in this dating experience that they're having, they're like, how come these men do this for you? How come I have different standards now where I make it clear this is what I require, this is what I expect, this is what I want.
Mhm.
And a lot of times they come through. Like if you really state what you want to see out of somebody, I expect you to bring me flowers. I expect you to take care. I'm not planning a date. You tell me when to show up and where the reservation is. It's just been like some people be coming correct, okay, but sometimes they come a little too hard, or there's other things going on, baby mama drama things I know I'm not going to deal with. So again, we're not going to waste no time out here.
Right.
Well, there it is, y'all. Another wonderful episode wrapped up. And special thank you to Dr. Lanecha for coming on my show today and for having a fantastic conversation. Thanks to you all out there tuning in and watching or listening. And please make sure to take a moment to like the video, subscribe to the podcast on any of the major platforms like YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, all that good stuff. Please drop us some comments. Let us know how you like this episode. And if you have any questions for me or for our special guest, I'll make sure to tag her contact information as well as her podcast so that you can go and check her out as well. And if you happen to be in the Charlotte, North Carolina area, or if you want to join me for a remote episode, please just let me know. All you got to do is apply on my website and we will take it from there. All right, y'all. Till next time. Peace.
Hey, hey, to whoever's out there watching, thanks so much for joining me. And again, don't forget to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and reach out to me again if you're interested in being a guest on the Hoe-Busters podcast. And I will get in touch with you as soon as I can. All right, well, I hope you all have a wonderful night, and thanks so much for tuning in. Bye.